as you address your ADHD, you genuinely have fewer things to be anxious about. It becomes kind of a plausible idea of, I don't know, maybe I'm okay here. Some of it is doing things to reduce the impact of ADHD on your kind of daily life and functioning. Some of it is finding ways to feel more okay about yourself despite your ADHD. Some of it is finding people who are more cool about your ADHD, right?
Hi, welcome to the ADHD Social Playbook Podcast. I am your host, Caroline Maguire. Today on the podcast, I am chatting with ADHD expert and my friend, Dr. Ari Tuckman. I have known Dr. Tuckman, Ari, for a long time. He has written several books about ADHD, and he actually has a new one coming out, the ADHD Productivity Manual. Ari is an expert in anxiety and ADHD, and I really wanted to go deep. As I'm working on my new book, I am writing about anxiety, and I wanted to go deep with him around anxiety. You are going to be in for a treat because he is an absolute expert on anxiety and actually has so many things to say that I have never heard before. In this episode, we talk about friendship and anxiety and social anxiety, and the fact that social anxiety and anxiety keep us home, women in anxiety and why it's often misdiagnosed. And then we really get into a conversation about how we can find help, support ourselves. So this is only part one of the conversation. So please subscribe and stay tuned for part two. All right, let's get into it. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. All right, I've known you a really long time, and I have pretty much read everything you've ever written, maybe within a margin, right? And one of the things I love about your work is that you take really hard concepts and you really boil them down. I think you have a great way of doing that. And you get us, and that's important. What do you typically see in terms of like anxiety and its impact on socialization with people who have ADHD?
So just more broadly, I have a line that's like, I say it's half of a joke because it's kind of funny, but the rest is hard truth, which is, if you have unmanaged ADHD and you're not at least a little bit anxious or depressed, then you're not paying attention, right? That like, yes. It gives you more things to be anxious about. Like, you're accurately reading the room. Like, you are reading your history correctly. You know, like, people are annoyed by you. People are frustrated. When you run late, they say mean things, or worse, maybe they don't say mean things, but you know they're pissed and they're thinking it. Right? When you interrupt people, when you forget to return the thing that you borrowed, right? Like, people notice these things and tend to have opinions about them. And, you know, as I say, you know, ADHD is a disorder of converting intentions into actions, right? So intention in your head, action in the world. And the problem is, you know, if you do something once or twice, people begin to doubt your intentions. But if you keep doing it, then people begin to doubt your character, right? And that's like pretty damning. So, you know, this is the depressing part of our conversation. You're right. You should be anxious. Well done. But like, there is hope in this as well, which is to the extent that you address your ADHD, meaning some of it is doing things to reduce the impact of ADHD on your kind of daily life and functioning. Some of it is finding ways to feel more okay about yourself despite your ADHD. Some of it is finding people who are more cool about your ADHD, right? So, but as you address your ADHD, you genuinely have fewer things to be anxious about, right? Like, it becomes kind of a plausible idea of, I don't know, maybe I'm okay here. You know, in a way that was not a plausible idea beforehand.
I think that's really true. And I'm a big believer, and I think this was early Ari Tuckman. You had a book that was basically like, understand your brain, understand your life, right? Yeah. And I'm a big believer in that. I also think, yeah, like one of the reasons that women are so misdiagnosed is that they focus on our anxiety. And like, we got a big cognitive load. Like, I got a lot to manage, right? Mm-hmm. But I was also think that like there's something about knowing you haven't had success and then me saying, all right, go out there, make friends,
Sure.
it's
Right.
anxiety provoking.
Sure. I mean, it is in the sense of like, because I mean, we all do social referencing, right? We all compare ourselves to others. And, some of that's good, frankly, So if you go to dinner at a friend's house and you see that they take their napkin and put it on their lap, right? If you've got good social spy eyes, you're like, ooh, right, right. Okay, that's a thing we do here, right? So, like, some of that social referencing is good, right? And to get a sense of like, here in the pack, so to speak, where do I stand? That can be a helpful thing, except if you too often find yourself kind of falling short. And sometimes you're actually falling short, as in, lo and behold, I'm the last person to arrive again. But also, after a while, you start to sort of interpret things in more negative ways, right? Where, possibly you are the last one to arrive, but also nobody noticed or cared, right? So, like, it is a thing that happened, but no, it isn't. The interpretation is sort of the issue there, right? So it then becomes this kind of self-fulfilling kind of an idea, where if you feel self-conscious about it, you notice, when somebody blinks wrong, you're like, oh, they're mad at me, or they have their contact is annoying them, like, or if you get kind of, I don't know, like over apologetic in like a sort of insecure way that makes people uncomfortable, then maybe they are annoyed with that, but not the fact that you were late, So like apologizing is a good social skill, right? You balance the equation, so to speak. But when you over apologize because you're so kind of distraught about it, it shifts the emotional burden onto the other person to make you feel better about the thing that you did to them, which is going to make them definitely, I don't know, it makes you less fun to hang out with. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I think there is a cringy element. Like there is an element, I have a really hard time convincing my clients like no one cared. Right. And I'm like, let's look at all the signs. No one said anything to you. No one showed it on their
Sure.
face. Like, look at all, no one cared that you were late. You
Yeah.
cared, but no one cared. And I feel like that's also where I struggle with, I've read so much about social anxiety in the past month. Okay. And I'm having this crisis of the soul where I'm looking at so many people thinking, are you more than just anxious? And are we like, we've discovered so many things in the past 20 years and now we know them like, wow, Caroline was right. A lot of these people are autistic and ADHD, right? But like, what if social anxiety is like chronically underdiagnosed in our population? And like, so many people seem to feel that performance piece. So can you just speak to that? And you can say, Caroline, you're like so wrong. It's fine.
Right.
I won't be offended.
No, I mean, I think you're definitely onto something, right? Because I think that this one condition masking the other can go both ways, right? So you sort of referenced earlier, women get diagnosed with anxiety and depression. Indeed, true. One might wonder why. Why are you so anxious and depressed beyond the obvious, right? And that's where the ADHD hides. But it can kind of go the other way as well, particularly if you're female, because of the way, girls and women are socialized, that it's okay not to have your shit together, but you better look like you do.
Right.
Right. By which I mean, it's not actually okay because people are judgy like that. But, as long as people don't know, then somehow you're, I guess, fine for this exact moment. But who knows what happens next. Right. So don't let anybody find out. So it kind of creates a situation then where I think that there's a lot of women with ADHD, girls and women more than guys, but there are guys that they work really hard to look like they have it all together and they don't acknowledge that social anxiety, or it's just so baked into what they do and how they view things that like it's just there, right? It's kind of like, a fish can't see the water it swims in or something. It's kind of like that also.
And do you think that there's like a tipping point, like where anxiety becomes you need to get help? Like, is there for you like a sign, or is it situational where you're like, please don't just read books, please don't just go to YouTube channels,
Sure.
please go get professional help? Because that's the other struggle of the soul I've been having,
Yeah.
where I'm, you know, I'm happy to answer people's comments. I'm happy to send people to your website. But then I'm also like, but if it's that bad,
Sure.
please
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
professional help, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I think it really comes down to how much are you suffering for it, right? Not just is it making you miserable and taking away your quality of life, but also is it sort of limiting your opportunities and activities? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think they like me. I'm not going to go to that thing. You know, like, I mean, on the one hand, if it's like, this is a boring thing, or it's on a Sunday night, like I get up at 5 because I have to go to work, blah, 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 that might be a good reason. But it's otherwise a perfectly whatever thing to do, but I don't think they like me. Like, that's a cost, you know, like that's coming at a high price to, I don't know, your social life and all the other good stuff that comes out of it. And like, as you know, there is a momentum to social events, because at this gathering is where we talk about the next gatherings. Of
Right.
like, oh,
Right.
there's this amazing restaurant. Have you ever, yeah, like, all right, let's go to that. Or like, oh, this movie's coming out, or this band's coming into town, or I don't know, I bought a new blender and you should all come over for, you know, pina coladas or something.
I mean, my husband informed me last night he's going to a Bruins game, and I didn't know because he bought tickets with someone when they were somewhere, and they all pulled out their phones and decided a great thing would be
Yeah.
to bring kids to a Bruins game. So my son's going
Sure.
too, evidently. Right?
Wow.
Like, and it's the day my daughter has a huge swim meet that lasts all day. So I was like, what? And it was just that. It was the momentum of we're all together standing in a kitchen somewhere, and we decide, wouldn't it be great? Our kids have never been.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, so there's definitely that sort of going forward in time, but there's also the going back in time, right? Because three gatherings later, when people are referencing what happened at that one you didn't go to, then it just reinforced like, yep, I'm on the outside. I'm not in the inner circle here. Like, you're not, because you stepped yourself back. They didn't push you out. You stepped out. Like, that's completely different. Because, and the reason why it's different is if you stepped out, it means you can step in. If they pushed you
Right.
out, possibly you can talk them into it, but also maybe not, you know? So, which kind of brings up a whole nother thing, kind of coming back to what you said of like, oh, there's, you know, I showed up late, you know, like, did anybody die? Doesn't seem like it. But like, how people feel about you showing up late or interrupting or whatever it is that you did or thought you did, part of it is what did you do, right? Obviously, that's half of it in terms of what people feel about it. But the other half of it is who they are, right? Like, you know, that really, like, that it's not just you, and how someone responds kind of tells you something about them as well. And, you know, some people are kind of judgy and rigid, and they're probably not good friends for you if you have ADHD, or frankly, anybody, I would bet. But like, here's like a story that's kind of tangentially related, but it's funny and I want to tell it anyway. So,
I love it. It's great, Ari.
so I was invited to do these two, like a morning session and afternoon session for this or association of primarily of Orthodox Jewish therapists, right? So I show up, I do my morning presentation, then there's lunch, which is great, by the way. And then I'm supposed to start at 1 o'clock, right? 1 to 4. So I get there early, I get set up, which wasn't really anything because I'd already presented. Literally at 1 p.m., there was not one other person in the room, right? And I didn't start until 1:15, and even then there are still people trickling in. So like, first of all, it would have been nice if they told me so I had 15 minutes less slides in my, deck. But like culturally, Hasidic families have a lot of kids, or Orthodox families have a lot of kids. So like, you're always running late, right? That's just sort of like a thing, right? So like that in that culture to be 15 minutes late, nobody blinks at it, So it just sort of, it highlights the fact that these are not like immutable laws of the universe. This is not like the laws of thermodynamics or something, right? These are kind of socially constructed by large societies and by individual friend groups.
And I think it's really apropos because I am always saying, like, get a circle of support and also find your people. And I think there's a big movement on the internet to sort of say like, oh, we're all going to just as neurodivergent people cluster with ourselves. And I'm not all for that. But what I am for is saying, if someone is really judgy or their culture within their group is you must be on time and you're never on time.
Yeah.
Like maybe those aren't your people. And you're saying, that's what you're saying. You're like, maybe we should all be finding those folks because they served a great lunch and they're late. Like that's a good group for me.
I know.
But I think that that's very true. And I think that there are cultures in, activities within a town, one of my friends just told me she's going to drive 30 minutes with her kids to play hockey because the hockey team, where she is insane. And the hockey team 30 minutes away is supportive, neurodivergent friendly, bilingual, by the way. Awesome. Like there's just this thing where certain places foster certain environments. Thank you for diving in with me. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of this conversation. Subscribe and follow so you can be notified when part 2 drops. See you all next week. Bye, friends.